Do not drink it, do not cook with it, do not wash clothes in it, do not take a bath in it.
If you get it on your skin, you'll get a skin rash. If you breathe it or drink it, but especially I think breathe it, it'll irritate your nose, throat, upper respiratory tract.
The frustrated
We don't know a lot about the product, and we're still, sampling and looking at concentrations.
Officials were alerted after residents reported a strange odor in the air. Fu Connor's parents live across from the facility.
It's extremely out of the ordinary. A lot of people describe it as licorice, but it's this sweet type of smell.
And we are very, very sorry for the disruption to everybody's daily life that this incident has caused.
West Virginia Governor Earl Ray Tomblin has promised a full investigation into the accident. Environmentalists have been critical of the state's handling of smaller-scale incidents in the past, including a 2008 explosion at a chemical plant that killed 2 workers.
Outrageous. Never realize how much you need water until you don't have water.
In Eugenie Taylor's home, she put socks on the faucets to remind her 3 children not to use the water. Everyone is drinking bottled water, even the dogs and pet mouse. But with no idea when the water will be usable again, Taylor stocked the van with bottled water and hand sanitizer for the ride to her sister's, where the water is safe.
When I first found out about the water leak, I was actually in Ripley working for the day, and it was on Twitter. I'd just checked briefly, and there was a proclamation from Governor Tomblin that said, "Do not use the water in Charleston." And that was really kind of the gist of it. I didn't know what else to expect, and I was just looking for more answers, as everybody was, I'm sure, but it was just kind of a panic thing, thinking that the water is out. There is no water. Do not use your water.
I don't think anyone had any clue what was going on. We just knew that there was a leak at Freedom, and that residents weren't supposed to use water at all. Of course, having reported this and living in Charleston, we were just as affected as anyone else. So the first 3 days after the spill, people were coming to work unshowered, basically cleaning up as best you could with like baby wipes or some sort of whatever towels you had laying around that you could clean yourself with. Bottled water, bar soap, and a washcloth was about the best you could do.
In short, it was a mess. It was a mess. I was lucky. I had water, but that meant I was sort of ground zero for people who needed showers, who needed to fill up water bottles, for people who just kind of wanted a place where they could get away from the no water situation wherever they were and feel a sense of normalcy for a little bit. So I was very, very fortunate. But our staff, our reporters, their families, many of them, I think nearly all of them, they lived in apartments and in homes where they didn't have water either. So this was a story that they were covering, but they were also experiencing firsthand. And that was really important because I think it added an additional sense of urgency to the way the story was reported, not just in our newsroom, but in all of the newsrooms in the Kanawha Valley and the 9 affected counties. I think that anytime you have media affected directly by what they're reporting, it adds a sense of immediacy and urgency to their job and the way they go about doing their job.
How dependent then we have become as a state on our few really clean, productive water sources like the Elk River.
And there was a reporter who was an anchor. There was an anchor reporter there, and she was very pregnant. And she was from our competitor station. She's from the area. And Gary Southern was getting ready to leave, and she wasn't having it. She wanted answers. And she demanded that he stay. We're not finished here, I believe is exactly what she said. And I think it, again, is a real illustration of how when media is directly affected, because this is their community, this is where they live, this is where they work, this is where their family lives and works, they were very invested in this reporting process. And it was personal for a lot of them.
The first thing people think about is hydropower, so a dam and the Hoover Dam producing electricity. But there's a reason, there's more than one reason at least, why there are so many electrical power producing facilities in West Virginia. We're close to coal, which is the predominant fuel source for those, but also they're lined along the rivers. The rivers are essential in power production and the production of steam that ultimately produces the electricity. And depends on the facility, but some facilities are more efficient than others. But the typical ratio that people look at is it takes about 80 pounds of water for every pound of coal to produce electricity. And so it's a major asset in our state and a resource for a lot of different industrial sectors.